The Boston Celtics had a down year in 2021, falling short of a lot of preseason expectations by dropping to the 7th seed and being eliminated in the first round by the Brooklyn Nets. With plenty of Eastern Conference teams getting better this offseason, such as the Chicago Bulls and Miami Heat, many fans are now questioning how well the Celtics could realistically do in this now stacked conference. However, I personally believe that the Celtics are still a quality team and could find themselves back in the top 4 in the Eastern Conference standings next season. I'll be explaining why I believe that is the case in today's video by looking at the Celtics roster going into next season, how they stack up to other Eastern Conference teams, and more. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe for more NBA content like this. I'm trying to reach 18,000 subscribers, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about the Boston Celtics. Firstly, we need to discuss why the Celtics struggled as much as they did last season, and to me, there were 3 big reasons that caused it. One was a no fault of theirs, which was the number of injuries that they had to deal with throughout the year. Boston lost plenty of guys, 2 COVID protocols throughout the season, including Jayson Tatum, who's even stated it's taken him a while to return to his previous fitness levels due to the lasting effects from the virus. That no doubt would have affected his effectiveness and overall play on the court, as well as Boston's cohesion as a whole. Another example would be the Celtics losing Marcus Smart to injury for an extended period of time. As someone who can be considered the engine of the Celtics machine, the heart and soul of the club, losing him for that long obviously didn't help the Celtics' attempt at having another highly successful regular season. Another big reason why the Celtics struggled last year was a lack of big man depth. That weakness was often exploited last year and definitely hurt them in a few critical games. Finally, inconsistency from the star players on the roster negatively impacted the Celtics season. While the star players on the team in Tatum, Brown, and Kemba were great for most of the season, none of them seemed to fire on all cylinders at the same time. Their lack of consistency left a lot to be desired for Boston fans, and it ended up feeling like the squad didn't reach their ultimate potential. Luckily for Boston fans, the reason why I'm bringing these problems up now is because personally I believe that the Celtics have fixed these issues, at least the ones that are fixable anyway. Obviously injuries are a bit situational, but as a result of their offseason, they've put themselves back in title contention with their roster moves. So, with that being said, let's discuss those roster moves now. The first key off-season additions that the Celtics made was reacquiring Al Horford and Ennis Canter. As I mentioned before, lack of front-court depth was a serious problem for the Celtics all season long in 2021, and while Horford and Canter aren't necessarily great players or even good at times, they still will be able to do the job that the Celtics struggled with last season, that of course being players who can add depth and talent to the front court. They'll be paired alongside Robert Williams there too, who's a young center finding his form. Williams developed really well last season with more minutes, so to place him with Horford now, that's just going to do wonders for his game. He's already looking like a really solid role player for the C's at just age 23, so it's exciting to see those additions made for him. Elsewhere, the Celtics also added 3 new guards to this roster after the departure of Kemba Walker. Before we get into those additions, let's talk about Kemba. Ending Kemba's time in Boston was a good thing in my eyes. Though he provided some valuable scoring and playmaking, he just wasn't consistent enough and didn't help Boston play as well as much as they needed him to. Now with him gone, a large focus offensively can be placed on Tatum and Jalen Brown, both players who have or are about to leap into incredible form. They can be all NBA type players if they aren't at that level already. I'll talk more about those two a little bit later on, but for now, the Celtics have replaced Kemba Walker with Dennis Schroeder and Chris Dunn. Schroeder has been the most clowned player this offseason after he lost himself over $70 million. To To be fair, he wasn't a great fit in LA, so now everyone looks at him at just an okay pickup now because of his ridiculously cheap contract. However, not many people remember how brilliant he was in OKC and how big of a part he was for them when OKC surprised the league and got the 5th seed in 2020. If he can find that form again in potentially a similar role on Boston, we could see a rejuvenation of Schroeder and see him emerge as a valuable player for the Celtics as they aim to go on a deep playoff run. In OKC, Schroeder was nearly averaging 19 points per game on shooting splits of 46% from the field and 38% from 3. All of that was coming off the bench pretty much for OKC, so I think his move to a starting role in LA didn't allow him to become as efficient as possible. If Boston utilize him as a 6th man, that will increase their depth in the second unit and allow Schroeder to hopefully return to that kind of form that he had in OKC. Behind Schroeder will be likely Chris Dunn. Dunn provides some good defense, and if his offense can improve, he'll be a valuable role player moving forward. Finally, the Celtics also added Josh Richardson, which again adds some more offense to this team. I'm not really sure how J. Rich will be utilized. He hasn't been great his past couple seasons in the league, but really, if he can just shoot the ball at a consistently good level, he will be a positive addition to this Celtics team. Moving on from the additions to the Celtics roster, we obviously have to talk about the 2 most important members of this side, Jayson Tatum and Jalen Brown. Tatum is a borderline top 10 player in the league right now. He's a really special talent. So if he's able to continue his elite play and be backed up by improvements from Brown, he's going to drive this Celtics ship towards a deep playoff run. Jalen Brown also had an enormous season last year too, and became an all-star caliber player. Both of the two had career best years, with Tatum averaging 26, 7 and 4 on 45, 38, 86 shooting splits, and Brown dropped equally impressive numbers of 25, 6 and 3 a night on 48% shooting from the field and 40% shooting from 3. The impact these two players make is clear, both offensively and defensively, so I won't talk for too long here. You know how good they are. Just know that any success that the Celtics have next season is off the backs of them, and if they continue to develop at the current pace that they are at, we could see them become one of the top duos in the league, if they already aren't at that level. Marcus Smart is another player incredibly important to Boston, as I mentioned earlier. He's the heart and soul of the team, and his defensive instincts and streaky scoring make him an incredibly valuable player. His fit next to Tatum and Brown from day dot has been incredible, and he is a major X factor for this team in any situation, which is why losing him for an extended period of time last season was so detrimental to their success. Without Smart, the Celtics went 12 and 12, and the defensive rating dropped from 112 to 115. That damage obviously held the C's back, so if Smart can be healthy next season, Boston can easily reassert themselves in the top 4 out east. Finally, the Celtics also have a new head coach due to Brad Stevens being promoted inside the organization. Personally, I don't know enough about Udoka to make a fair call about whether he's a good addition or not, but from what I've seen, this isn't a bad replacement at all, and hopefully, he'll be able to maximize the unlimited potential that Boston's core of players have. So those are all the new additions to the Celtics roster and the remaining players who I believe will make a significant positive impact next season. So, we've talked about the Celtics issues and how they were able to fix them this offseason, and we've talked about how their core of players, at least on paper, can set them up for better success in 2022. But how good are the Boston Celtics actually? Realistically, I'd probably say that the Celtics are at worst the 6th best team in the East currently, and at best, I think you could put them around 3rd. I'd confidently place Brooklyn and Milwaukee above them right now, and I'd give Miami and Philadelphia an edge, although it is rather tight there. Philly's situation is looking very poor, so they could take a hit and fall down the standings and become far more beatable than last season. And Miami, whilst they have improved on paper, we obviously haven't seen them play together yet, so I won't jump to conclusions and say they're miles better than Boston. But again, I will give them the edge right now. On a similar level, I have Atlanta. The Hawks didn't really make significant improvements in the offseason, but we know how talented of a team that they are, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them have another fantastic season in 2022. The Knicks are also up there, same with Chicago now, but I'd have Boston above both of them currently. The East is going to be extremely competitive next season, so it's a bit hard to predict, but I for sure wouldn't forget about Boston in the hunt for a home court playoff seed. They definitely have a chance to bounce back in 2022, especially after the improvements they made to their roster this offseason. Overall though, these are my thoughts on the Boston Celtics. Coming into the offseason, the C's had a few issues on their hands, and I feel like they've gone and made all the right moves. Yes, I do get that the moves that they made weren't league-breaking or have blown up their roster like the Lakers did. But what they did do was move around the pieces that they didn't really need and got back some players that they did, like Al Horford, Dennis Schroeder, etc. If those guys can gel in well to the core of this team, that being guys like Tatum, Brown and Smart mainly, then the Boston Celtics are certainly looking at a positive season in 2022. Yes, the changes they made probably haven't fully fixed some of their glaring weaknesses like the frontcourt depth, but it is still improvement, which is why I wholeheartedly believe that they can get back into the top 4. 2021 was disappointing and some things just didn't go their way, but they've been able to regroup well and given themselves the best possible chance to get back to the level that they were on in 2020. While I definitely wouldn't suggest that the Celtics are favourites to get out of the East, let alone be anywhere near the best team in their respective conference, I certainly wouldn't be sleeping on them anytime soon either. Boston seems refreshed, and with a new year comes unlimited possibilities, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see the Celtics right back in contention in 2022. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? How good are the Boston Celtics to you? How far can they go next season, and can they take it up to the teams at the top of the East, like Brooklyn and Milwaukee? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.